Good morning, guys. I hope you had an amazing night last night and that you are all ready for a brand new video this morning. Now, I know that in these videos we have been talking about setting of different stories. Now remember, setting is, say it with me, where things happen. Let's do it one more time. Setting is where things happen. And for our question this morning, I would like you guys to think, what is your favorite setting of the books that we've read this week? We looked at the setting of corduroy in the laundromat. We looked at the setting of Froggy Gets Dressed inside his house and outside in the snow. We even looked at the setting of the napping house inside the napping house. Which of these settings is your favorite? Close your eyes and let's think. We'll think for a little bit longer. A little bit longer. Now open. Which one of these settings is your favorite? I think that one is amazing. I think that my favorite out of all of the settings is the napping house. I love the napping house because it is an old, big house with lots of windows and lots of different rooms we can tell from the outside. And I think that that's such a funny book when they're all piled up in the bed together. I would love to live in the napping house. So the napping house is my favorite setting out of all the books that we've read this week. All right, my friends, I'm going to push you guys back so we can do some gross motor time to help our bodies get big and strong. So you find a spot where you have lots of space to dance without knocking into anything. Today, our song is the stretching song. So you'll need space to stand and stretch, and you'll need space to sit on your bottom and stretch on the floor. So make sure you have space where you can do all of that stuff together, okay? And I'll start our song.
Stand up straight and look to the left. Look to the left. Look to the left. Now look to the right. Look to the right. Look to the right. Look to the right. Now look to the sky. Look to the sky. Look to the sky. Look to the sky. Now look to the ground. Look to the ground. Look to the ground. Look to the ground. Put your arms up high and stretch to the sky. Stretch to the sky. Stretch to the sky. Put your arms real low and touch your toes. Touch your toes. Touch your toes. With your left hand, point to the right. To the right. To the right. With your right hand, point to the left. To the left. To the left. Put your left foot forward and lunge. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Put your right foot forward and lunge. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Put your left foot forward and lunge. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Put your right foot forward and lunge. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Reach back. Put your left foot in your hand and stretch it out. 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 Reach back. Put your right foot in your hand and stretch it out. 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 Sit on the floor with your back up straight. We're gonna stretch it out now, and it's gonna feel great. Put your legs straight out and touch your toes. Touch your toes. Touch your toes. Pull your left foot in and stretch to the right. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Pull your right foot in and stretch to the left. Stretch it
Are you feeling all stretched out? Are you feeling all flexible and comfortable, like you can do anything? That's what you should feel like after we stretch. Stretching helps us feel nice and flexible. I'm going to bring you guys back so we can take a couple deep breaths before we focus on our story. I'm going to do tall deep breaths today. Let's do 5. 1. Breathe in. Breathe out. 2. Breathe in. Breathe out. 3. Breathe in. Breathe out. 4. Breathe in. Breathe out. 5. Breathe in. Breathe out. Good job relaxing, my friends. Deep breathing is over. That's right, it's time for us to focus on our story of the day. Now, we have spent the past couple days looking at the settings of a couple different books. We looked at the setting for A Pocket for Corduroy, which we saw was the laundromat. We looked at the setting for Froggy Gets Dressed, which we saw was the inside of his house and also outside in the snow. We also even saw the setting for the napping house. And the setting for this book is, that's right, it's the same as the title, The Napping House. That's right, 3 different books, and actually 4 different settings across 3 different books. Today we have a brand new book with a brand new setting. It's one of my favorite books. This book is called Miss Nelson is Missing. Now let's take a look at the cover for a second, my friends. Where do you think this book happens? Where's the setting? How can you tell? I think we're inside of a school. I see desks. I see a blackboard. I see an American flag or some flag. Is this the... I don't know what flag that is. But I see a flag like the one that we have in our classroom. Hanging. I see a teacher's desk like your teacher's desk. I see windows like the ones that we have in our classroom. I think we're inside of a school. That's right. Now, my friends, I want to introduce something else to you really quick. Do you see all the different things that I looked at in this picture to be able to tell what the setting is? I looked at the desks, I looked at the kids, I looked at the teacher's desk and the flag, the windows and the blackboard. I looked at so many different details to figure out where the setting is. If we want to find the setting, we look for details in the pictures of the book. Details are tiny things that we notice in the picture. For example, I see a detail that this kid is not looking very happy. That's a detail in this picture. And since I noticed that he's a kid who's not very happy and sitting in a desk, I wonder if we might be inside of a school. What's a detail that you notice about this picture? Something tiny that you see. I wonder if anyone notices the pen that's on the teacher's desk. Do we have pens at school? Yeah, so that's another detail that could lead me to think that the setting is the school. Let's look for more details in the pictures as we read, and that way we might be able to find out where the setting of this story is. Miss Nelson is Missing by James Marshall. Miss Nelson is missing. I see details. I see a chair. I see an eraser. Those are details that tell us that we're at school, too. The setting is the kids in room 207 were misbehaving again. They shot spitballs on the ceiling. They shot paper planes all through the classroom. They were the worst class in the entire school. Now settle down, children, said Miss Nelson in a sweet voice. But the kids did not listen. They whispered and they giggled while their teacher was trying to talk. They squirmed and they made funny faces. They were even rude during story hour. Is she listening to the story? Not while her teacher's trying to read. Miss Nelson didn't know what to do. They always refused to do their lessons. Something will have to be done, said Miss Nelson. What are some other details you see in these pictures? I see a detail that she's reading the book. I see a detail that he's writing on paper. What's a detail that you see? All these details can tell us that this story takes place inside of a school. These kids are so misbehaved. Are they listening to their teacher? Miss Nelson's going to have to do something about that. The next day, Miss Nelson did not come to school. Why don't you think their teacher came? I don't know. Let's read and see. Miss Nelson did not come to school. Wow, said the kids, now we can really act up. So they ran around the classroom. They made spitballs and paper planes. Today, they said, let's be terrible. Not so fast, hissed an unpleasant voice. A woman in an ugly black dress stood in front of them. I'm your new teacher, she said. Miss Nelson's not here. I'm Miss Viola Swamp. And she hit the desk with her ruler. Where's Miss Nelson? The kid said. Never mind that, said Miss Swamp. Open your books. Miss Nelson's students did as Miss Swamp said. They could see that Miss Swamp was so mean. She meant business. Right away, she made them work so hard, and she gave them lots and lots of homework. No story time today, she said. Keep your mouth shut, she said. Sit still, she said. And if you misbehave, you'll be sorry. Oh, is Miss Swamp a very nice teacher? That's crazy, my friends. Wow, imagine if your teachers talked to you like that. You know what? I remember in the beginning of the book, Miss Nelson was so nice when she said, "Please sit down." But is Miss Swamp nice like that? No. She's kind of mean to these kids. Let's look at details in this picture. What do you see? What details do you notice? Those are some good details. I see a desk. I see a trash can. I see a blackboard behind her. Do we have a teacher's desk and trash cans in our classroom? Yeah. More hints about what our setting is. This story happens inside a classroom. The kids in room 207 never worked as hard as when Miss Swamp was there. Day after day after day, Miss Nelson was still gone. The kids missed Miss Nelson. Maybe we should try and find her, they said. So some of them went to the police. The detective McSmog was on the case. He listened to their story. Where's Miss Nelson? They said. Home, he said. I think Miss Nelson is missing. But they already knew that. The detective was not much help. So, the kids went to Miss Nelson's house to try and look for her. The shades were closed. Nobody answered the door. But they did see who? The wicked Miss Swamp walked down the street. If she sees us, she'll give us homework, they said, and they ran away just in time. Why is Miss Swamp at Miss Nelson's house? I don't know. Maybe something horrible happened to Miss Nelson, they said. Maybe she was gobbled up by a shark. Maybe she went to outer space, they said. I know, said one kid. Maybe her car was carried off by a bunch of butterflies. But none of those things seemed very likely. They still didn't know where Miss Nelson was. The kids in room 207 were so sad. They missed their teacher. They thought Miss Nelson was never coming back, and they'd be stuck with the evil Miss Swamp forever. Suddenly, they heard footsteps in the hall. Tut, 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 tut. Here comes Miss Swamp, they said. Hello, children, said someone in a sweet voice. Who is it? Who in this book uses a nice, sweet voice? Who is it? Hello, children. It was Miss Nelson! The children were so happy. Miss Nelson was back. Did you miss me? Said Miss Nelson. Oh, yes, said the students. We missed you so much. Where were you? That's my little secret, Miss Nelson said. Are we going to have a story today? Said the kids. Yes, said Miss Nelson. Are we going to read books and draw pictures? Yes, said Miss Nelson. The students were so happy to have her back again. They were good listeners, and they listened to the story, they played nicely with their friends, and they did what Miss Nelson told them to do during the day. After school, Miss Nelson went home. She took off her coat, and she hung it in the closet, right next to a black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a little song. I'll never tell, she said with a smile. The end. Thank you for the story. Thank you very much. Woohoo! My friends, I think that's a fun story. This is one of my favorite books to read. Now, we saw that at the beginning of the story, were kids listening to Miss Nelson? Is she being a good listener? Is she being a good leader? But then Miss Nelson went missing. And who did the students have instead? Miss Viola Swamp. Did they like Miss Viola Swamp? No. Who did they miss? They missed Miss Nelson. And finally, when Miss Nelson came back, were all the students good listeners again? They learned their lesson. They learned their lesson. And at the end, Miss Nelson went home and had a black dress hanging in her closet. Why do you think she'd have a black dress hanging in her closet? don't know. We'll have to talk about it the next time we read the story. It'll be a surprise. But right now, let's think. What's the setting of this story? Where does it happen? This story happens inside the school. So let's draw over here. I'll grab my marker. I'll add another little square. And I'm going to draw the setting of this book in the school. Now we know that we looked for lots of different details while we were reading. We saw that there were desks. We saw that there was a blackboard, windows, a teacher's desk, pencils, lots of different details to tell us what the setting is. So I'm going to draw some of those details right up here. I'll draw a teacher's desk with a pen and maybe some papers and legs. I'll draw kids' desks, like the details we noticed in the story. I'll draw windows. I'll draw a flag hanging and a big blackboard behind them. We know that this book happens in school. I can even write that as a label. School, right over here. The setting of Miss Nelson Went Missing is in school. That's where this book happens. This book happens in school. The setting is in school. Awesome work, my friends. We will talk more about setting and more about Miss Nelson Went Missing tomorrow when we read it again. For our parent activity today, we can focus on making journals at home. So these can be journals in paper. They can be journals in a different way. The idea is to help students document the passage of time when they're at home and not at school. So every single day, you can do 3 different things, if this works for you. If not, you can do 3 other things with your student as well. But on a sheet of paper or on something else, you could write the date, because we already talked about it during calendar. You can write the setting of their day, so where they spent their day. They could spend it at home. They could spend it outside if you guys go to the park. If they play in the driveway, then the setting could be the driveway, and then what their favorite thing that day is. You should have them draw a picture of these things, so either a picture of the setting and then a picture of the favorite thing that they did that day, and then together you label the pictures with words. So let's say for today, your student played outside in the driveway with bubbles and hula hoops, and their favorite thing about the day was the bubbles. So you would write the date at the top, and then you would have them draw a picture of what they did out in the driveway. So they draw the setting, and then if their favorite part was bubbles, then they would draw a picture of them blowing bubbles that day. Then together, you'll take the pencil and you'll label, so you'll write the word bubbles, you'll write the word driveway together, you'll talk about the letters, you'll talk about writing from left to right, and then you'll accumulate all these different journal entries for every day. So they'll be able to look back and see their favorite thing that they did every day. This will help them learn the different words for different objects. It'll help them learn writing skills as you label it, and it'll also help them kind of remember different events that are farther in the past, because we know that 4-year-olds have kind of a touch and go concept of time, and being able to look back on all the different events and talk about them will help build their memory skills. So that's a really fun activity that you guys can do at home. You can add to it every day. I really enjoyed reading the story and making this video with you guys, and I will do another one tomorrow. I hope you have a great rest of your day.